All right, guys, welcome back to the Found Men podcast. We are on episode 8, and if you follow us on Instagram, you already know that we've got a more than special episode today. We have an amazing guest that I'm super honored for us to have on. If you aren't following us on an Instagram, then you missed out, but you're about to figure out. We have with us Willie Montague, who is the Republican nominee for U.S. Congress for Florida District 10. We're just super honored to have him. I feel blessed that we came across each other in Novelty, as everyone on this podcast has heard us talk about many a times. That place has provided so much for us as far as the ability to reach others and just commune in our local community and to meet people. And Willie, you were one of those people that I had the great opportunity to meet. So one, just thank you for being on today.
Well, thank you for having me. Excited.
Yeah, Austin is going to start us off with a little bit of trivia, and Willie is actually an ordained pastor, so he is going to be answering our trivia for today.
Yes, Bible trivia. Let's see if I can stump you, Willie.
All right.
All right, so who was the most wicked king of Israel?
The most wicked king of Israel.
In the Lord's eyes.
Is it Nebuchadnezzar?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I don't know.
All good. So this was King Ahab.
Oh, okay.
Ahab,
Yeah,
okay.
With Jezebel.
With Jezebel,
Yes.
the pagan. He actually also started worshiping Baal, the false
Baal,
idol, Baal, and another one I forget the name of. But yeah, we're a bad guy.
All right. Yes. Okay.
Nice.
I wasn't
Nice.
thinking right, but yeah. Okay.
See, guys, I mean, this is the whole reason that we do trivia on this podcast, and it's for us all to learn. Even an ordained pastor.
There's a lot of stuff in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's hard to memorize every single thing, like no matter who you are.
Yeah, man. So, we're going to get into our topic today. Well, before getting into our topic, actually, I just want to give Willie the opportunity to speak a little bit on his policies and his who he's running against in this race for U.S. Congress. Again, Willie is the Republican nominee for Florida's 10th district in Congress. He's running against Maxwell Frost, who is an incumbent Democrat. And without taking too much of your thunder, I mean, I do want to say, just doing simple research, it's pretty wild to see the things that Frost himself stands for and is supporting in Congress. And I just feel like it doesn't represent. I feel like it doesn't represent at least my beliefs for sure. I hope it doesn't represent most of the beliefs of the 10th district. So, just anything that you want to put out there right now, Willie.
Yeah. So Maxwell Frost. We kind of backtrack. Maxwell Frost actually got elected when he was 25 years old. So he was actually, or is considered, the youngest member of Congress. But what I would say, at him being 27, he is a Gen Z. He has progressive ideologies, and these ideologies that he has are anti-Christ ideologies. I say that now. This is the interesting part about Frost, is that he'll say that he is a Christian, but if you look at his his X, formerly Twitter, you look at those social media outlets that he uses, all of them speak of ways that are not pleasing or would not be pleasing to God. These are things that are from abortion up to 9 months, something that I am definitely against. Some of the things that he talks about, removing the Statue of Liberty, being against guns. We have to protect ourselves. We definitely know we have the Word of God and His safety, but we live in a real world with some real crazies. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be able to protect ourselves. And so I find with that when we have individuals as progressive as Maxwell Frost, it is simply because when people want to get elected, they want to have power, they want to do these things, that's what happens. They start coming up with ideologies and thought patterns that goes against, one, the will of God. Two, it goes against actually any normalcy that is out there for the traditional individual, whether you are a Gen Z, a millennial, a Gen X, or whatever it is, a baby boomer. You realize that these things are not, they're just is not American beliefs, they're not American dreams. So with me, I'm the complete polar opposite of Maxwell Frost. What I believe is securing the border. Now, when people hear about securing the border, I'm gonna start there. We instantly think about, okay, that means we gotta deport everybody. Well, what it is Florida is not a border state. However, Florida is ranked number 3 among all of the states in the United States for human trafficking. A lot of this that happens here in Florida, it comes from the border. We may not be a border state, but however, somehow they find their way here in Florida. Orange County is number 2 among all regions in the United States for human trafficking. And Orlando is number 3 among all cities in the United States for human trafficking. So basically, the center of District 10 is a hub for human trafficking. And so when we talk about boys, girls, young, middle-aged, this is damaging to the rights of individuals, and we have people like Frost who fight against that. The second thing I stand for is education. We have to make sure that our children are properly educated, that they are not indoctrinated. That was something that Governor DeSantis have stood for in the first term, and then going to a second term. I was at school board meetings every single week from Volusia County, Orange County, Seminole County, standing up against the indoctrination that came in, where they basically wanted to cram the transgender ideologies into these children's minds. And there was never a book that was banned. Saying a banned book simply means that it doesn't exist. Governor DeSantis cannot take books from off the market, but he can ask the schools to say, we're not going to do that here in our schools. We're going to make sure we protect the kids and make sure that the parents are the ones that are teaching them that. So education is very important to me. One of the zip codes in our district reads below the national level. The national level is 7th grade. And so 7th grade reading, we're talking about 12th graders reading at a 4th grade level. There is a literacy issue that is happening. How do we fix that? There is ways to do that from a federal level, where we have monies that are allocated to make sure that we're helping with trade school, literacy programs. And the other one is economic development. That deals with our job creation. That's dealing with the industries that we already have, and making sure that jobs are coming back here to the district. And oftentimes we don't see that. We were promised by Frost that it was about $12 to $23 million that was put back in the district. I have not seen $1 million at least that put back. Our homeless population has increased. We have about 4,000 homeless people in Orange County. I drive down and look at under the bridges, and it's constantly filling up with homeless people. We go and we look at people. We got elderly. We have people that are in their senior years. We call them the silvers, that should be home with their feet propped up, enjoying the sun and the palm trees. Instead, they're having to go. I know a lady right now that's 58 years old that has to go and work Uber because she cannot afford a living. So when we're one of the main things that Frost talked about is the question was asked on a debate: what is the most pressing issue right now for the American people? His response was climate crisis. And that is not the most pressing issue. The economy is the pressing issue, because when I go to pick up a loaf of bread, I'm not saying, man, that sun is just really too hot to get a loaf of bread today. That is just not real. But in his mind, that is real. Like that, the climate crisis that he says is overpowering the fact that we can't even fill up our tank of gas without it costing 60, 70, 80 bucks. You're not able to go and get $20 and you're liable to walk out with probably a bag of lemons and potatoes. Maybe not even be able to get a pack of meat. I just saw somebody saw that a gallon of orange juice was $8. I went and saw that a dozen of eggs one time when I went was like $5 or $6. The cost of living is higher. The housing market is crazy. Most people, Gen Z and millennials, some people even said, Willie, I don't even know if I even will experience what it is to own a house because of this economy. And that's a serious problem. So when a person such as Maxwell Frost, who makes sure to let people know that he was homeless during his election, can get up there and say that the issue that is most important is climate crisis when he himself understands he could not get into a house himself as a Gen Z.
Yep.
There's a problem with that. So this is where the comparison is. We have to get back to, I believe, truly God in America. Our founding fathers, I believe, were truly praying people. They were, most of them were Baptist ministers. And I believe that when they found this country, even though they didn't want to take up an actual government, government take up a god or a religion to worship, I do believe in the bottom of my heart that they knew that Christ was going to be the center of this nation. And we have gotten so far away from that in the United States to where there is a cry for revival. There is a heart that people, a heart for repentance and returning to God. And I believe it starts in the government. In fact, during the time when the country was founded, most of the people there were actually pastors that were in Congress. Now is less than 1% of those people are actually any form of a minister. And it was called the Black Robe Regiment. These were people who would put on their black robe to preach on Sunday, take it off, and be ready to go and fight for their country right after service. And so we're missing that today. We got people who do not want to fight and stand up for their country. We have seen where people have walked away from Judeo-Christian beliefs, and our country is just falling apart, and we need God. So that's a lot, but yeah there we go.
I mean, that is a lot, but you basically just laid out the whole episode for us. With the topic today supposed to be spiritual warfare in America. There's so many pieces that you just hit on that do incorporate that spiritual warfare compared to where we're at now and where we should be. I would say, first off, one of the top things that you mentioned, I mean, I gotta say, we're sitting in my apartment right now recording this, and we all three of us see this is a 470 square foot studio apartment, and it's costing me, I mean, more than half my salary to pay just to be here, let alone my other living expenses. So you touching on that, and the fact that we came across each other in Novelty, which is a pretty young crowd in there, and I've thought about that so many times in there. The amount of people that are in there, the guys and girls that work behind the bar at Novelty, the constant patrons there, how many of us in there are truly at risk of not owning a home in the near future, like living the American dream that has been completely washed away in the past 20 plus years. I mean, those dreams have completely shifted, and their other ones have been forced into our face as to what we should be dreaming for. But at the end of the day, everyone comes back to what there truly is: owning a home, having a family, like having a good community around you. That's what everybody desires, and just to live a decent, peaceful life. It's obviously never going to be perfect, but when our government is working against us to be able to do those simple things, it can frankly piss a lot of people off. So, I mean, just the ability to have people like you trying to step into the positions that need the representation of Christ in government is just super important.
Right, because all of these property management companies and all of these, these landlords, they can just raise rent however much they want, and there's no laws against what is fair. Just the example that you gave with your apartment, and I don't know too much about politics, to be honest with you, at least local government, but it's crazy that there's no laws in place to like protect people and just trying to make rent, and I know there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into the realty and like the price of housing and stuff like that, but yeah, it's just something needs to get done, so.
And I think what you mentioned too as well, as far as who you're running against in Frost, I am the same age as him, but it's so interesting how a lot of people around my age have just gone down one path or the other. Like, there seems to be so little people that went kind of down the middle and have tried to balance both, where there's people like him that have gone completely progressive and, I mean, truly don't really stand on any morals. They fake a set of morals, and then there's others like myself who had that lack of moral and now have changed path and truly do stand on morals and believe in family, believe in Christ. But it is kind of crazy that there's so many people around that age group that are now very important in these races, these political races. I mean, again, I'm 27. This will now be my third presidential election I've been a part of. So, and numerous amounts of local political elections. So I'm at that age group I feel like, is that an important age group for you to target, or where do you lean towards as far as the demographics that you're trying to pull in with your ideologies and your policies?
So the average age in Florida's Congressional District 10 is 34.9. How they do that is, but it's 35. However, all of the major universities or colleges are within District 10. So that's Full Sail, that's the Valencias, that's Rollins, and that's UCF. They are all within Congressional District 10. So the average age of a person who is going to college is going to be that 18, first time coming to vote, up to maybe 23, 24, depending on what you're going to school for. And then you have those who are the Gen Zs who have went out, they're starting their careers and going forth, like individuals like Frost. So I would say from ages 18 to about 35 is that age, which would be the youth and young adults, or the young adults. Those are those that we are targeting, especially for this campaign. Now, the thing with it is that a lot of these individuals who are that age, a lot of them had got their indoctrination when they were in college. And so, they picked up a lot of, I've seen people who, parents are nervous for them to go to college because, they teach them and they come up in this conservative mindset, and then they come back and they're like liberal. And they're like, what happened? But the school. And so what we're trying to do is just let people know, like, there's one way to be a free thinker, and there's another to really just see that these policies are damaging not only the way that you think, but it's damaging to society, because a lot of the things that Frost stand for and people like Frost, we're not going to have a generation afterwards. We have alphas right now, but who is going to help raise and teach the alpha generation? Because every generation before is a generation that's supposed to help raise up. Yep. So I'm millennial, and we got millennials that have had Gen Z, and then you got Gen Z, and now you got the alphas that are here, and you're like, okay, and then you got Gen X. So this is right now in the time we're living. There's multiple generations at one time, and so you're looking like right now we have an opportunity to still have things passed down, legacies. The Bible talks about that, the children's children. But when you actually look back over that, what have we left to this generation? And I tell people, I believe that the millennials and Gen X, they are at fault for not standing really on the principles, not only of the country, but the Word of God. Because now we have a lot of loose cannons out there. And so we're targeting
absolutely.
I believe that we'll be able to be that voice. We plan on doing a college tour to talk to some of the students to let them know, like, hey, there's another way to think, and there's another way to look at things. Can't force you to who to vote for, but just be honest with yourself. And I've asked some people that, I said, let's be honest about, let's list what are some things, whatever. Most people don't know who Frost is. Some people don't know who I am. And then you ask them to posit it, they have no clue. But it just sounds good because Frost has a concert. He's a drummer. Great, I can find you a Republican drummer too. But that's just where they are. They just think because he plays a drum and he can dance in front of on TikTok, that makes him cool. And I think like we got to get away from what's cool and be like, we got to save this country.
Yeah. No, what's cool, what's like, important.
Back we were saying about like the college indoctrination. They just package this, the liberal mentality, the progressive mentality, into this really comfortable, great idea. Like I fell for it too. I'm completely guilty of it in my early 20s, and it just, when you're young, you don't have the experience, it seems like such a great idea. You're like, oh wow, I'm investing in this country, investing in America, and all the super liberal and socialist policies, but not realizing how damaging it really is to our country and our mentality, like our spirituality and our growth in spirituality. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like something as well, you could definitely speak on this much more than me. Obviously, I'm an expecting father, but you're a father of 3, and you have 2 kids that you have pulled out of the school system to homeschool because of what's going on.
Right. Yeah, because I have friends that are teachers, and they have recommended to me and my kid's mom that we don't send them to school because they are Christians and they see firsthand what's going on at middle school and elementary now, and it's sickening. It really is. And so that's why like my kid's mom, she does such a great job with homeschooling, and I'm blessed. Not everybody can do that. That's the thing, is that a lot of parents both parents work 9 to 5, or they don't have the patience or the skill to teach kids stuff, which it's tougher than it sounds. But yeah, so just to kind of protect their minds, we decided to homeschool them. They still have social lives. I know there's this stigma about homeschool kids are weird, they're really awkward and stuff like that, but they're brilliant, they're thriving. I know other parents who are homeschooling, we wouldn't change it for the world. But there's a lot of evil in the schools, and they're trying to push that liberal and progressive mindset on them. They're talking about stuff with like Trump, and trying to brainwash them that he's the insurrection and stuff like that. It's already in the history books, right? That they're teaching. And the stuff with the gender, and you don't have to tell your parents. You know all that stuff, Willie. But it's crazy. But again, blessed to be able to homeschool for sure.
And I was a big proponent of like kids should go to public school because I feel like it provides them a lot of social opportunities. But now, like with my first little girl on the way, I mean, obviously I've got a handful of years until she's actually in any school system, but I truly am like,
it happens fast.
Yeah, I'm genuinely concerned at this point. Like she's due in January, and I'm already looking those few years ahead. Like, what kind of ridiculous questions is she going to come home with at some point from school? Like, I get there's always going to be questions. That's how kids are. But what unnecessary stuff is she going to be bringing home that I then have to unteach at home? So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could speak on that a little bit, Willie, on where it is you're trying to support and what way you're trying to help those school systems get away from these bad ideology teachings.
Yeah, most of the school systems, especially within Florida, we do have a great Governor Ron DeSantis. But a lot of it, I mean, just in Osceola, they were just literally fighting. They're like, some of these school districts, it's not necessarily what is coming down from Tallahassee. It's these really corrupt school board members. And this is why local elections is very important. For example, in Orange County District 6, there was a lady that I worked closely with named Jenny, who ran for school board. She was up against someone who is basically like the school board representative, like Frost, just running for school board. And she was endorsed by all of these radical liberal individuals. She literally was talking about DEI. She was talking about all these things that are just like, as DeSantis says, woke. And so when I think about it is moving the way forward from federal level on down, we have to get with these candidates or individuals. And let me back up. When you saw people run for office before, it wasn't selected by the party. It was individuals like you and I who walk up and down our street. We go to the grocery stores. We hear people come and say, "Man, this our state of our community is bad. This is bad. We need somebody to represent us." And then you'll be like, "You know what? That's true. Instead of me talking about it, I'm going to do it." So you get with all your community and you say, "Hey, you guys, I think I'm the person that can make a difference. Will you support me?" Now it has become who has the most money, who has the most, likability. It's no longer a representative from out of your community. It's more of who is going to do what the party and the powers that be say. And so moving forward, I think the best thing for us to do, especially in the state of Florida, is to make sure that when we see candidates that are good candidates, that we get out. We had one of the lowest voter turnout during my election last couple of Tuesdays ago, and it was 17%. The voter registration is 811,000 people. Only 17% showed up. That's Republican and Democrats showed up to vote.
Yeah, I saw the numbers, and I was like, these numbers do not add up to the population in this district.
And we were even lower as Republicans. The Democrats had 40,000 people show up to vote. Republicans had 20,000. We literally was half the amount of Democrats. So when you look at like people like Frost's race, they're like, "Oh, he won by 80%." Yeah, because he had 20 more thousand people.
Yeah.
So you look at it like, what are we going to do if we don't have people show up? Because school board races are won in August, not November. So their November general election is during the primary. So a lot of people don't know about the primary. So they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to vote in November." Like, no. And then I've had people came to me in times past, "Willie, I'm voting for you," or they come back like the end of November. "I didn't see you on my ballot." Yeah, because you didn't go out. You didn't go out and vote in August. So those things like that is very important. Moving forward with the school boards and making sure that we show up. Like that was something that I did. Like these school board members who are like really the ones that are aiding and abetting to this indoctrination, they hate when we show up. And we used to show up in droves, signs outside. The song, I can't remember, I think it was called, I forgot who's the band, but we used to play it on the speaker. "We're not going to take it. We're not going to take it no more." And we used to play that out there and literally say, "We're not going to take this anymore." So you need people to get out there and just get rowdy. Like the crowds have slowed down. People are not showing up anymore. You have to get involved, because that's what's going to change it. And when the school board sees that people are showing up and you're going to the PSA, the PTA meetings, and you're showing up and watching what they're saying, even in sports, not just what they're teaching in the book, but making sure that stuff is not going crazy. I mean, we're literally seeing where it's like, these coaches and stuff have to identify themselves.
Yep.
He, him, they, them, it,
The
pronouns.
Yeah, and we have to get back to common sense. Like, you don't go to school to focus on worrying about if you're going to misgender someone. You're going to school to learn math. You're going to school to learn English and social studies and things that matter for you to go out and be productive. And so I think we just got to get back to the bare bones basics.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that just speaks volumes right there alone is the fact that I feel like just political candidates in general, when asked questions so much, they try and take it somewhere else. But we asked you a direct question, and you gave a full and complete answer directly to that question, and that just speaks volumes in itself. Instead of trying to like take what we said and take those couple minutes to platform something else on your mind, you actually answered directly what we were asking. So that's awesome. That does bring me to at least more of a personal question now that you brought it up, as far as these more corrupt people. And I know this goes down to the low points of like local school boards, but I feel like it also goes up to the federal level. Something I've been a big proponent of in the past, I'd say 3 to 4 years, that I've really started supporting is like term limits. Where do you stand on term limits, as far as, do you support them staying where they're at and all these congressional and Senate seats that are held for years on end? Because I mean, my belief was just kind of like you were saying, the representatives in government were supposed to be representatives of the people in their area, not these political heads that sat on this throne in DC disconnected from the people they're supposed to be representing. So if they're constantly sitting in that seat year after year after year after year, it feels like you're going to run into that disconnection. You're going to run into corruption compared to having those limits where someone new can step in, but maybe that someone new still has the same ideologies, just maybe a little bit different view. What's your take? Yeah.
I would say three things. The first thing is I definitely believe in term limits. I believe there needs to be term limits from local level all up, but I mean local down to city council, school board, and a lot of a lot of places have term limits. It depends on what their ordinance call for. But for overall, most people do not have term. That's why we have Buddy Dyer as the mayor of Orlando for like 23 years.
Yeah.
So the second part to that is most people believe, which I believe also on top of the other one I'm getting ready to mention, is that voting is the term limits. Okay. Now, I'm all for that because I believe in that. However, however, with that being the case, people oftentimes, if they have more money than the other person, of course they're going to get more name ID, more recognition, and most people blindly vote. They don't do research. So if they see my name over and over again, I'm like, okay, I don't feel like this. Okay, yeah, I seen their name walking in. I'm going to vote. And so, therefore, the voting, yes, is supposed to be term limits, but oftentimes most people do not take the time to research and get the information. It's whoever has the most money to overpower the other person. That's why I believe we need to have term. Now, the third part of that is that's why I believe that we need to set term limits for ourselves. Ted Yoho was a congressman in Florida's Congressional District 3, which is now Kat Kamik. He set personal term limits, and he did. After his personal term limits, when I can't remember the years, he set those, and he decided not to run anymore. Same thing with Bill Posey. Bill Posey here in District 8, same thing. He decided to just here. Now, what he did is he got up there. They went out and they searched for those who were going to best represent the community. He got behind that person, but he stepped down.
Exactly.
And he let that person lead the way that was, a little, older, but not as, a little older than he is. I mean, he's, younger than him. But that's what I believe we need to do. And so you look at it, for example, Val Demings was the person who occupied District 10 first. She then ran for U.S. Senate against Marco Rubio. So when she did that, she basically gave up that seat. That's how come we ended up with an empty seat. That's how Maxwell Frost got in there. Maxwell Frost was actually not the person supposed to win that district. It was a guy named Randolph Bracey who was actually leading in the polls by 30%. Well, when they start seeing that this guy was this young guy drawing on these young people, that's when all this money, literally, Elizabeth Warren, everybody started getting behind him. $3 million in this race. And so then he became the poster child for the Democrat Party of Florida Congressional District 10. I just made a post on my ex right before I got here, which is, think about it. If we don't beat him come November, he wouldn't be impossible to get out of that seat. We're talking about him being in office till he's 60.
Yeah.
That means 32 years of radical leftism.
Yep.
And that is because we have to get out and vote. And that is because we do not have term limits. And because we don't have term limits, we're basically allowing him to sit there for as long as he wants. Believe it, he's 27 now, but he's going to want to run for U.S. Senate because the Constitution have ages. They don't have term limits, but it has ages. He's going to want to, he's going to turn 35. God knows he may want to run for President of the United States. And so we're looking at someone who has positioned himself to move up to higher heights. I said this because of term limits, and I back up. There was this guy named Nathan Douglas, 19 years old. He beat a conservative in the Water and Soil Conservation Board. He beat a conservative out of Dr. Phillips. What he did was, I told everybody, I warned him, I said, he's 19, but he's waiting to get to the proper age. They're going to groom him. He's not just going to be this water boy. He's going to literally be, right now, he's running against Susan Placencia, which is a conservative. And he is like, they're afraid they're going to lose that seat to Nathan Douglas, this once 19-year-old who is now 22, 23 years old, who is now running for State House, and is him and Frost can be twins. And so this is literally what we're facing in Orange County when we don't get out in these races. We don't advocate for term limits. We don't have people get out the votes. If we don't start advocating for personal term limits and get behind it, a lot of people don't want to advocate for term limits, I'm going to be honest, because they feel like they're going to lose power. I tell people, if I get up there in D.C. and I know I'm standing on everything God told me to do and everything that's within my power, give me 2 years. I'd rather go home after 2 years, because that's the term. I go home in 2 years and say, God, I please you.
Yep.
Than for me to stay there for 10, 15, 20 years and saying I did everything the powers that be in D.C. told me to do.
Yeah.
And the people here are looking like, man, we wasted our time. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. We need term limits.
I love that. I mean, and the importance of that too is just the fact that, like you said, you take that time, that's your time, and you please God doing it, and you follow His lead, not the powers that be in D.C. But too, what's always blown my mind is the fact that you can also spend those couple years while impacting your community. You can be setting up your predecessor, whoever you view coming out of your area that can best represent the same morals and values that you're representing during your time. You can be building them up so that as soon as it's time for you to step down, you can point to them and be like, hey guys, if you like what I've done, you need to support this guy, because this is who's going to come up behind me and continue the good work with another point of view and without power being consumed into one person for years on end.
Right.
That's awesome, man. Do you have any questions for him?
No, honestly, I don't have too many questions. I'm just like, taking everything in that you're saying, honestly, because it's mind blowing. Where we're at in our political, local, and federal government. Like, how did we get here? So but just taking in everything you're saying, just like everything you stand behind, like the fact that you care about pleasing God and doing what is right in God's eyes, that speaks volumes. So I feel very blessed to have you running in our area. So thank you.
Thank you.
I again just can't express the gratitude for you being here today with us, Willie. And I can definitely, I feel like I speak for at least the guys on this show and a good bit of the listeners. You 100% have our support. But I would like, if you want a second, to plug how anyone can support you, where they can find you at. I also saw that you have a foundation as well, if you wanted to bring up that as far as supporting your foundation. Any way that others listening can support you.
Right, sure. So I'm on social media, all the same, Willie J. Montague, and that's WILLIE. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, YouTube. Don't got many videos up there, but you can find me on those places. My website for my campaign is teamwillie.com. That's teamwillie.com. And I'll talk a little bit about it. House of Timothy is an organization I started some years ago, but I got it officially incorporated as a nonprofit here in 2015. So we work with young boys ages 13 to 17. Part of it is I came from a background of a single-parent home, fatherless home. And my brother went on the path of starting off with marijuana. It led to pills, that led to heroin, and that led to prison for 7 years. He just got out last August. And I felt like if we had something like what we do at House of Timothy, he could have avoided those paths. Of course, I'm only 4 years older than him, so at that time, I wasn't having the means to be able to open up a home. So here I am. I went to Bible college in Oklahoma. Opened up my apartment that I had then. It was like this. It's called 1-bedroom extended. So basically, just a large bedroom. And I started taking in guys there, helping them go to school, helping them eat. Fast forward to that, ended up moving to a 3-bedroom. Every room was filled. We had guys sleeping even under the dining room table. We had so many people that was in there. I ended up on the couch, even though I had a room. So we would cook like it was Thanksgiving every single night. Help them go to college, help them go to work. Fast forward, moved here to Oklahoma. Moved here to Florida. Worked at a program called House of Hope. I saw that the boys were aging out at the age of 18, and I was like, man, some of these boys do not have the brain capacity to be out there on their own. So I said, I started praying, and this was like, man, this is what House of Timothy is supposed to be, because I had the vision of it, but I didn't know it was going to be a house. I just thought it was just a name. And so we started the path. I prayed. I said, God, if you want me to do this, I need you to give me the money for incorporation by this weekend. Well, sure enough, we actually got the money that weekend. Got it up, incorporated. Let me tell you that people don't know. It takes almost from 6 months up to almost 2 years to be able to get your 501c3. Everything came in a week.
Wow.
And so we knew it was God instantly that God did this for us. We started getting all the donations. Someone asked me, they call me PJ for Pastor Joshua. My middle name is Joshua. And so they were like, what do you need? Like, what are you missing? I said, we need a house. I literally was on the couch like this, sitting down. I was like on the floor. And they were like, what do you need? And I was like, we need a house. The phone rang and said, I have a house. And I want to, I want to offer it to you because I no longer want to do transitional home. So we fast forward, get this house. We end up, I get an email asking us to get on Good Life 45, which is, if y'all ever heard TV 45, the Christian channel. And the lady emailed me. And when we got there, she said, listen, I have no clue who you are. I don't even know how you even got on this set. She said, but we're going to do this. I'm going to interview. This is my first time meeting you. And I said, yeah, I don't know how I'm up here because we never asked to be on TV. She never knows. So she interviews us. The episode we were interviewed on played during Thanksgiving. So it played 3 times a day for 3 weeks because they were not in studio during Thanksgiving. That was a miracle. So we were literally on air 3 times a day, 3 weeks. And so we get all these phone calls of people saying, we want to help, we have a child, we want to go this. So God opened up a door through that path. And so fast forward, I started praying. I met with this lady and her, and she didn't tell me how old her son was. She said, I want you to help my son. I was okay, well, how old is he? She was like 7. And I was like, 7? I was like, no, this is not a daycare. So she was like, she was telling me how he was running to the car crying. It was like, she was like, why are you crying? She said, Mom, I see all these boys get picked up by their dad, but I don't have a dad. And so she reached out and saw what we were doing. And so I lowered our age at that time and broke it up from 7 to like 12, 13 to 17, and then 18 to 25. And so when we opened up this house, I said, okay, God, this is going to be for 13 to 17-year-olds. And we opened up the house. It was a miracle too. We went through a phase of homelessness in 2016. And it was the landlord had sold the first house. And it was a battle. And I'm like, God, so the end of 22 or 23, it was the end of 2022. I was like, God, we can't do this. You have called me to the house of Timothy. You called me to save and help save these lives of these young boys. And I said, something have to give. So it was my birthday. I laid on the bed, didn't do nothing for my birthday. And he said, go check the phone and go look for a house. And I was like, this app that I use never works. We have a realtor, but it never works for me. I can never find a house. So I said, okay, I'm about to find out if this is the Lord speaking to my spirit or not. So I go open up the app, and 4 or 5 houses pop up. The first one, I said, okay, this looks great. I text the realtor, and I was like, she's not going to text me back. It's like 9 o'clock at night. She texts back, hey, I got it booked for you. Can you come meet me tomorrow? And I go meet her tomorrow. Now, mind you, it's the 13th, because my birthday was the 12th of December. I go to the house, walk around, and say, hey, this will work for us, whatever, what we need to do. I look at the paper, and the day that it went on the market was literally the day that I saw it.
Wow.
And so I go get the house. I called and I said, okay, you guys, we found a house. I sent out a text. This lady messaged back and said, okay, what do you need? I said, this is what we need. I go look. She donates $10,000.
Wow.
So we were able to get all the stuff we needed for the house. And then the people went, we need insurance, we need this. Everything just fell in place. Everything since. So this house that we're in is the Miracle House. And it took us 8 years to get back to that. So our program is definitely one of faith. We are licensed and registered as a child caring agency, and we just serve boys 13 to 17. Our mission, I would say for people to go and look it up, is broader than just that. We do help with human trafficking. We help with those who are veterans and displaced. We're getting ready to open a home called the Defenders Den, which will be a home for displaced veterans. And so it'll be partnership with House of Timothy because a lot of veterans are homeless or not having a place to stay, and we want to be able to help, and that's why we call it Defenders Den, because they defended us, and we want to give them somewhere so they can rest in those years that they have served. And so anyway, that was me speeding up that story from all the way from there. But go to houseoftimothy.org. If I can tell you anything to do to support, if you can donate, great. If you wanted to come do a tour, I always say, come do a tour. I mean, it can be a can of beans, whatever it is that you want to do support, but most importantly, to pray. because it is definitely a mission at hand, and we don't get any government funding. We depend solely on those who believe in the mission, and we believe that God has allowed us to be here going on 2 years now. He has been faithful to allow us to be where we are. So thank you again for your time and having me up here, and God is faithful.
Yeah,
Awesome,
absolutely.
man.
And yeah, we don't have a ton of followers on this podcast yet. We're pretty green with it, but if we can, put this out there to hopefully reach other people to support you, support your campaign, like that would be huge. That's our hopes with this. And thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you.
Sweet. Well, I mean, again, Willie, really appreciate it. Everyone, I hope this was a special episode for you guys because it felt super special for us.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't tell from this conversation, go get involved. Go vote this November. This man deserves your support. This man is trying to truly represent the beliefs of Christianity, and he wants God to be at the center of what he's doing, obviously, if you can't tell just from this conversation. So I think it's important that we all get involved and we do put our voices out there and elect representatives that truly do represent us, not ones that are just a populist vote. But yeah, man, Austin, go ahead and take us away.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in again. Yet another week, another episode of Found Men Podcast. If you guys want to hear us talk about anything, feel free to leave a comment or email me, austinjrivera@live.com. Y'all have a blessed week.